the ICRC. And thank you all for coming. Without taking much of your time, I would like to welcome the Deputy Head of Delegation of the ICRC to give us his opening remarks, and he, on his turn, will welcome our guest of honor. Thank you so much.
Roles of women in times of conflict. Allow me as well to thank in particular UN Women for having accepted to organize the event with us today. This panel is the fourth of its type organized by the ICRC following the launch of what we call the ICRC Humanitarian in Kigali that started in 2017. The Humanitarian in Kigali is meant to offer a safe space for debate on humanitarian issues that concerns us all, as well as policies, with the objective, and I would say the ambition, to inject on these debates an African perspective and contribute to that. The debate today, as you know it, is on the roles of women and roles with S during times of conflict. And it happens, it's not by chance, just a couple of weeks after we celebrated all the International Day of Women. When we talk about conflicts, of course, we talk about the suffering that war causes. Be it international or non-international, war causes extreme suffering for those caught up in it. Women experience war in a multitude of ways, from taking an active part in rebuilding the community to being targeted as members of the civilian population, and specifically, probably as well because they are women. But war for women is not just a vulnerability. War forces women usually to take unusual roles, and sometimes they contribute of the role of men when men get either killed, wounded, or detained because of conflict. Women as well, during war, they suffer from the missing, the husband who are killed, and sometimes they end up in clear status. They are neither widows nor divorced if the husband goes missing. The critical role of women that women play for the development of the communities and society at large often goes undervalued, unfortunately. Actions, policies, and campaigns to promote gender equality and women's empowerment in the context of women migration, affirming and building their breadwinner role and their socio-economical capital, including in times of conflict, is necessary today. Permanent Secretary, distinguished guests, I'm happy that the distinguished panelists today will discuss that role and help us break this, the stereotype of just seeing women as victims in war. And they will help us as well explore how to support, empower the role of women in war and in different aspects, be it as contributor to the development of the society, be it as contributor to the humanitarian response, be it as well contributors in peace operations, and any role that a woman can play today during and after war. Prior to start enjoying the debate with our distinguished panelists, allow me first to welcome our honorable guest for her remarks. Thank you very much.
Deputy Head of Delegation, ICRC, distinguished representative of government here present, dear development partners, representatives, representative of private sector, civil society, media, or distinguished guests or protocol observed. Allow me first to thank ICRC and UN Women for organizing this event during the month dedicated to women, and also to have invited our ministry to officiate this event. First, let me also bring warm greetings from Honorable Minister of Gender, of Family and Gender, Family Promotion and Gender, She has not been able to be with us today, but she really sent her greetings and again congratulate ICRC and Women for really organizing this event this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, celebrating International Women's Day is a time to reflect on progress made, to call for a change and to celebrate acts of courage and determination by ordinary women who have played an extraordinary role in the history of their countries and communities. In Rwanda, for this year, we celebrate under the theme, Together, Let's Build a Safe Family. The theme was chosen with the aim to reflect on what has been so far achieved in the journey towards gender equality and women empowerment, but also to identify the remaining and the new challenges and to recommit together with men to sustain gender equality and women empowerment towards building a safe family and accelerate Rwanda's transformation. To echo on this evening theme of this meeting, as we all know, almost 25 years ago, the genocide against the Tutsi was happened here in Rwanda, was committed in Rwanda, and in a period of 100 days, more than 1 million of Tutsi, men, women, children, and elders were savagely killed. Towards the end of the genocide, another considerable number of Rwandans fled in the neighboring countries, and actually the two situations, the genocide against the Tutsi and the refugees, created one of the big humanitarian crises of the 20th century. And it also left our countries shattered. Particularly, women suffered the most as rape victims, with unwanted pregnancies, HIV/AIDS. There were also widows, orphans, to name a few. However, and against all odds, Rwandan women immediately took up new multiple roles as heads of households and financial providers of devastated families and communities. Women engaged in rebuilding the country. However, as again we all know, this could not have been easy or possible without the leadership and strong political will of our government, led by His Excellency the President Paul Kagame, to recognize that recovery and development would only succeed with women playing a central role. Thus, laws, policies, and affirmative actions have been put in place to empower women in all spheres of life. The strong political will of our government to empower women and mainstream gender into government programs and projects is underpinned by legal, policy, and institutional frameworks. And it has been a key to Rwanda's progress in addressing gender inequalities and building country's development. The Rwanda Constitution of 4th June 2003, as revised in 2015, ensures equal rights between men and women and ensuring their complementarities in the national development. This commitment is also reflected in the ratification and implementation of numerous international and regional instruments. For example, the ratification of the United Nations Security Council Resolution on Women and Peace and Security, known as the Resolution 1325, among other commitments, have paved the way and provided for the effective participation of women in all aspects of conflict prevention, peace negotiations, peacekeeping, and peace building. Today, Rwandan women are playing a commendable role in conflict prevention, maintaining peace and security, both at national, regional, and international levels. Apart from the percentage of women we know in parliament, 61% and 50% in the cabinet, women played a critical role in the reconciliation of the Rwandan society, with 30% of Gacaca judges being women. Currently, female community mediators stand at 48%. In judiciary, women judges at 48%, and access to justice bureaus staff are also at 48% composed by women. Commissioners at the National Unity and Reconciliation Commission who are women, 67% are women. Today we have 21 female police and 24% female in Rwandan correctional services, and we know also in the Rwanda Defense Force, the number are also increasing. I'm sure the panel will tell us more on this. In addition, Rwandan women's role in conflict prevention and peacekeeping is recognized even beyond Rwandan borders. Rwanda is among the leading contributors of female police and army officers in UN and AU peacekeeping mission. However, the huge efforts and achievements made in promoting gender equality and women empowerment, we still face challenges. The negative cultural norms and patriarchal attitude which resulted to GBV, among others, hamper women full involvement in the country development, but also in conflict prevention processes. We'll be okay, don't worry, I think. So we therefore, no way, no. So let me maybe wind up. We therefore call upon everyone here present to work together and sustain the gains, but also expand our efforts for an inclusive society towards meaningful participation in all conflict prevention and peace building for sustainable development. As I conclude, I would like once again to congratulate ICRC and UN Women for organizing this event and all those who have contributed to its success. I thank you and I wish you fruitful discussions.
Thank you, Honorable PS, and I can assure you I wouldn't have said it any better. Women are not only victims, but they hold families through a strong and willing leadership, and they contribute through peacekeeping and so many other roles that they take up after, during, and after conflict. Thank you so much, Honorable PS, for even assuring us that the roof will not fall on us. So we are just going to be fine. Without taking too long, I'm going to welcome Madam Alice Karekezi, our moderator, to welcome for us the panelists and lead us through the panel. Thank you so much.
I think it's time to say good evening, right? Yes. As mentioned by Rachel, my name is Alice Urusaro Karekezi, and I'm the moderator for tonight. I'm going to pay respect to Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Gender, or representative of government here, and chief women keepers of women's rights, such as the Gender Monitoring Office, led by Madame Rose Rwabuhihi. Here, we call her with familiarity, Madame Rose. Maman Rose, and I think I introduced it. We have also the leader of our umbrella organization here, Madame Emma Bugingo, head of Profam Twese Hamwe. Excellencies, we are really set for this conversation tonight. I'm going to tell you one joy for me. In addition to the fact that people are so happy that we are speaking about a very interesting topic and celebrating the International Women's Day for the month, we have also, my task has been made very easy because I will not have to do the task of taking you through the background of Rwanda in terms of achievements and challenges remaining when it comes to the centrality of women in our post-genocide reconstruction. So the PS did that very well, and I will not come to do that. My task tonight is to moderate the presentations of our very distinguished panelists. We have tonight 3 women who wear different hats and who will speak about many things. Let me just caution you on one thing. We are not going to speak very much about one role of women in conflict. I think the moderator of tonight has also spoken about. too much often when we speak about the role of women in conflict, we always stuck with some very important topic, which is the suffering of women in times of conflict. It is true that it is an important topic. It is true that for many years it has been overlooked, it has been taken for granted, but it is also true that we tend to have a partial discourse because we have stuck ourselves to speak about that. So today, for a change, we're going to look at other experiences of women in times of conflict. And I'm going to tell you how we're going to do that. So thank you very much to have allowed this conversation, ICRC and UN Women. I'm going to call upon my panelists here and introduce them one by one before having the short presentation in 5 minutes each, and some questions from the moderation, and eventually to open the floor for this one, if you allow me. Yes. Can I please call upon Captain Lausanne Sengimana from the Rwanda Defense Force? We decide with my panelists that we are not going to tell you too much about our panelists, but we're going to relate very much their presence today to the topic of today. So Captain Lausanne Sengimana, I know because we have Swiss in the room, they will remember Lausanne. Yes, it's like the city of Switzerland. Captain Lausanne Sengimana works at the headquarters of Rwanda Defense Force, the J9. So we're going to speak about that a bit more while telling her what she has served in peace support operations, and part her conversation will lead there. So I will leave that for the rest. So thank you and welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm going to call upon Inspector of Police Alphonsine Murekatete. Alphonsine Murekatete is, as I just mentioned, an inspector of police. She works at the Rwanda National Police, and also she has served in those, it has been mentioned that Rwanda is one of the key troop contributors among the countries, and also that contributed many female in peace support operation. So Alphonsine Murekatete has had the experience of serving under the blue helmet already. Welcome, Inspector of Police Murekatete. Last not least, I'm going to call upon somebody you have seen on your TV sometimes. Her name is Novella. It is great. Madame Novella works with UN Women and Rwanda Television, Rwanda Broadcasting Agency. For those who are familiar with the television, I know with many channels sometimes it gets a bit difficult. She runs one very cherished program called Image d'Afrique. Image d'Afrique is a program in French, so if you want to see her more, please feel free to, she will tell you when she appears. She has experience in different aspects of gender, ranging from emphasizing ICT and STEM for women to other issues of our own concern as an activist. So with these three women, we're going to have 15 minutes of their presentation before we lead. But before that, let me just present one of the feminist figures of this country, Josephine Wamaria, that I haven't seen. So welcome. So thank you very much. I'm going to ask you to make a short presentation, 5 minutes. If you can't fill the 5 minutes, don't worry. 3 minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm Captain Lausanne Ingabire Sengimana. I work as the personal assistant of the Chief J9, is the Joint Chief of the CDS, Chief Defense Staff. I'm married, one boy. I've been in the UN mission in 2014 under the umbrella of the African Union, MISCA, and then after that, MINUSCA under the UN. What else? I've done several courses, military course, civilian course. I think it's enough.
Yes, you can spell that.
Yeah.
A military officer. What does it bring to you? And how your organization deals with matters of gender and before going to other questions?
Okay, I joined the army in 2004. At that time, we were really few ladies to join the army. The RRDF, the RRPA before that was really open to welcome female for basic military training, for the officers cadet course. But at that time, in 2000, even in 2004, after a few years after the genocide, still the numbers were really low. But after that, numbers are increasing. I finished my cadet course in 2011, and then once I came back because I did my cadet abroad, I noticed that the numbers is low, but still the numbers are increasing. We are moving from almost 30 people in officers, only that, to now 100 and something. So I think it's not what the UN is looking for, it's not what we are looking for, but we are still trying to get people mindsets break from what they used to think about the army. I mean, the army is open to everybody. I mean, I'm a woman, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, but I can do whatever I want, even if I'm in the army. So the policy now is in the RRDF is to really open the door for everybody. His Excellency, the PSA about the affirmative action, we are, during the recruitment process, we are trying to make sure that not only men are focusing on, but only female, also ladies, girls from secondary school, from university are welcome. We are open our door to everybody. So we are trying to break the mindset. It's hard after the genocide. We are 25 years old army. It's still kind of fresh in the mind of people, but still we are heading to a right number, to a good number, to a valuable people in the army. Yeah.
From your experience, I was thinking that my teacher's voice will be enough, so they've warned me. Yes. From your own experience, what do you see in your force where women, in which kind of tasks show their best?
So I won't say that in our job there is dedicated job for ladies. We can do whatever you have to do in the army. You must be able to be a soldier, a driver, a tank operator, or whatever. So from the strategical level, operational level, and tactical level, all the way down, we have ladies in each level. So I won't say that we mostly in the logistical part or medical part, or no, everywhere we are able to work with, you know.
I was listening to recently to a debate in the United States where they were among women, interestingly, where you had two very separate sides in terms of whether or not women should play exactly the same role. And I don't think it is a monopoly of the United States. Arguments would range from yes, they are losing their femininity, but you have covered that one, to some of the entry points for the army that require, but you'll tell us, physical force that women, for example, if you have to pass the test of climbing the Bigogwe as one of the entry tests, Do you think there are some barriers or there are some accommodations or even some stronger points? Because I've heard, for example, some army officers speaking about women being good in cyber crime units, etc. What is your take on that?
So my take on that is nothing is impossible. I mean, you all know from the Rwandese here, you all know Ndabaga, you all know other stories. Nothing is impossible. Even right now, we have a course of female officers as special force. They are claiming the Bigogwe right now. So it's
excellent.
Yeah, so nothing is impossible. I mean, as long as you want something, you join for something, you believe in something, you have a faith on something, nothing can fail you. Yeah, sure.
Yes, wonderful, because in this very divided debates, we had people pro, but we had also one of the highest ranked women in the British Army who was saying that the barriers are just what we want them to be.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
sure.
this is your position.
Yeah, this is my position. Nothing is impossible. Yeah.
So perhaps taking you to another terrain, leaving a bit Rwanda Defense Force, what do you think from your observation in your time during conflict? What have you observed when you go as a peace support operation personnel? How do you see women playing roles in the conflict zone when you are there?
So in 2014, it was my first mission. I was the second in charge of the civil-military cooperation. I saw several things. I saw women as combatants. I saw women as victims. I saw women as daily fighters just for the sake of survival. Only that. I mean, not that they have not that they think about one party or another party, or they think about the government or whatever program, political program, but they think about how to survive. So because I need to survive, because I need to provide for the family, for the relative, for a family most of the time of more than 10 people, so I need to fight for that. So that's why I joined Seleka or Antibalaka just for the sake of having few money or few food stuff. For me, it's another kind of fighters. They are fighters for the survival. So yeah.
Among the women involved in conflict, you have seen also women in organized forces. Yes?
Sure.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. And how do you feel when you discuss, for example, with your colleagues who are male? Do you think you perceive the situation as a female soldier? Do you feel the same when you brainstorm with your colleagues, male, who are in the same mission, for example? How do you apprehend these women? Do they find them a bit weird or normal? Just as you say, integrating war as an everyday thing in their life.
So I think my countermate, the male, feel, from my feeling, I think they feel the same way that I feel when we saw a female combatant. They feel the same pain. We feel their pain. We feel what they have to endure. But one thing I noticed from them is they are curious. They are astonished to see a woman as a peacekeepers. For them, it's the first time, or for them, it's strange to see how well we are working with men, how we can help each other, whatever the situation. For them, it's something new. But we also notice that the reason why that lady is in that Seleka or Antibalaka is not the same reason as that man beside her. It's not the same reason. Yeah, she wants to show that she can do more, she can do better, but it's not the same that the man beside her. Yeah.
Just last one question. I was reading and found out that in some studies that have been looking at female suicide bombers or female jihadists. So there is a perception that sometimes women have a level of ruthlessness that men don't have. What is your take?
My take is it's true. It's true. It's true. I think I don't have all the names in my mind right now, but in your readings, in what you saw on TV, on internet, when a woman decides something, whatever the case, I mean, nothing can block her. I mean, it's the target. If she wants to get the information, if she wants to achieve something, nothing can stop her. I think for me, that mindset make a woman a rough fighter than a man sometimes. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Captain Lausanne. This is very instructive for us civilians in the room. Yes, thank you very much, because sometimes, you know, there are many debates, don't you? How women can be more peaceful, that they can, because of the traditional role of caretaker and so on. Yes, so, yeah, you want to say something about it? No? Okay. Okay, thank you. We'll come back to you. But now let me thank you and go to Inspector of Police Mwekatete. Of course, your organization also, the Rwanda National Police, has been engaged and more forcefully since 2007 with a forceful gender agenda. Yes, so can you tell us about that?
Thank you so much. My name is Alphonsine, Inspector of Police, Alphonsine Mwekatete. And Rwanda National Police also plays a lot in gender. So gender in Rwanda National Police, as she mentioned, I think I will correct her a bit. It started since Rwanda National Police was established. It was established in 2000 June, where all sister institutions merged together and formed the Rwanda National Police. So gender started in recruitment. So they recruited women and men to participate in police, and it was at a low level. But in 2005, that's when Rwanda National Police had more initiatives where they introduced this women convention. The Women Convention in Rwanda National Police, it addresses the gender issues of female police officers in Rwanda National Police. And this enhances and motivates, it's like an essence to the female police officers to participate and perform their duties. It helps us to solve our issues before we enforce law to the locals. So this Women Convention, it's part of gender raising and sensitization. It helps us, like, I may give an example. If I'm a female police officer, my family is located in Kigali, and maybe I have been deployed in Eastern Region. This will be very difficult for me to do my job at work. At the other hand, to fulfill my duties at home. So this Women Convention has a structure from the headquarters, top leaders, to even to the territorial units. So there is an advocacy. If I'm a female, my fellow female has an issue, she will address it through the channel up to the top leaders. And this issue will be addressed, be it gender-based violence, be it any. So this is something that helps and has, have raised the gender issue in Rwanda National Police. Again, in 2010, this is when the Isange One Stop Center initiated, not officially, but this is when the idea came in Rwanda National Police as they were addressing and facing the gender issues. So the initiative came of Isange One Stop Center, which is now has come as a role model in all African countries to address issues like gender-based violence issues. And it's helpful, it sensitizes the locals to talk about what is happening to them. And maybe I have skipped a bit, but it is helping according to the theme we have. It is breaking this stereotype of keeping quiet of what have been happened to you. Like it is shameful to say I'm raped. It is, how is the community going to see this? But with this Isange One Stop Center, people are, they speak because it involves female police officers. It involves different government levels, as we know. So people are free to speak out, and people now they have a good channel where to address their issues, which is breaking this stereotype of keeping quiet from what is happening.
Yes, of course, Isange One Stop Center, I think many of you have known about that, who are familiar with that. It is this place where the Rwanda National Police bring different services that victims of violence will otherwise look for in many places. So they put together not only the psychological part, but the medical, as well as referral to the judiciary. So that's why they call it One-Stop Center, Isange. But let me take you back a little bit. Besides those mechanisms you have to engender the police by having this advocacy mechanism, the convention, but the Rwanda National Police has also gone an extra mile and gathered during the campaign of Ban Ki-moon, the former Secretary General, this campaign for a few years. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Thank you. Rwanda National Police on the campaign of Ban Ki-moon. It is, I think, this brings about to the Center of Excellence, the KICD, Kigali International Declaration Center. So this is an African Center of Excellence that corrects all the security organs to fight against, prevent gender-based violence. And the headquarters is located in Rwanda National Police here in Kigali. So it addresses the issues, and it happens annually and corrects all security organs officials to come and discuss about what are the strategies, how can we prevent gender-based violence in Africa, because it is basically in Africa. How can we protect women, girls, and boys from gender-based violence issues? Yes, thank you.
Very much. Now, let me end with you by asking you, how does it translate? How this drive for gender translates when you're in conflict zones abroad? We know very well that Rwanda Police, National Police, goes abroad also as part of the peace support operations.
Yes.
Since police come a lot in that. Can you tell us about your own experience, or either as member of former police units or something like that?
My own experience, I went in a mission of UNAMID, Darfur, as an individual police officer, police advisor. So I participated in security, and I worked in the sector of Nyala, the south sector of Darfur. Basically, police officers, we are there for reform and restructuring. We train, we mentor, we enforce law. We teach them from the best practices of our country, because you go there as an expert. We of course, we interact with the locals, you meet females, you assess, you report, you know. But on my behalf, my experience is that, as the topic mentions, the stereotype of gender is still incurring in the post-conflict countries. And if you go there as a female, of course, you are passionate to your fellow female. And as Honorable PS mentioned, each Rwandan understands that. As the saying say, he who knows it feels it better. So as a Rwandan, I can feel it better when I see my fellow female going through this situation. That's why we work under the mandate, and as an added value sometimes, I think people have been seeing it in place, things, best practices, quick impact projects Rwandans have been doing in mission areas. This is something that when you see it, when you see the situation as a Rwandan, because you have gone through this, you feel it and you feel you have to do something. So my experience is that I worked through the mandate and we had to do some other quick impact projects to see that our sisters, our brothers, their children are raising up at least to reach certain level of life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn now to last but not least, Mrs. Novella, and take another part. We were up to now discussing the conflict from the time the weapons start speaking to when they silence them. So the weapons get silent at one time, or at least the noise gets smaller. So this is the time when you have to think about negotiation. This is the time you have to think about agreement, and that's where I want Mrs. Novella to take us. I would like to know, from the perspective of your organization, UN Women, that has its own specificity in the UN family in terms of mandates. So most of you are familiar with that, so we're not going to go that very much. But I would like to engage you on the issue when we start now thinking about a peace agreement or post-conflict reconstruction, and how does it relate with the pillars of 1325, this resolution taken slightly less than 20 years ago, and which you translate, you materialize through your work. Can you tell us about that?
Thank you very much. I think in terms of course, what has been said before, it's very much complementary, because as we see, women have different roles even in times of conflicts. But what has happened for long is that after the conflict is done, and they have suffered and they have, have had losses, they are just put outside of the room and let the men discuss about how do we bring back peace, and how do we arrange between ourselves. And this has not really proven very efficient, because statistics show that when women are actually on the table of negotiation, outcomes of implementation of the agreements, the peace agreements that are negotiated, are better. So those are researches and studies conducted by UN Women and other partners. So it means that when we have women on the table, of course the discourse is more inclusive, not only because they think about women, of course, but because they are able to, as family, they are, heading families sometimes, they become a female head of households, but also they are able to see the bigger picture that we know. I mean, the women in the room, we can agree that, of course, when it comes to looking at in a holistic manner, it's easier. So that is one element, having them as negotiators, for example, and those are some of the recommendations from the 1325, is to make sure that women are actually going to be part of negotiating teams, but also are going to be part of security and peace enforcement bodies, such as what my co-panelists have been talking about. But also, once we have negotiated, once the discussions now come to how do we bring back peace, it's also important to allocate some of the, be it thoughts, but also budgets, because money is what talks, right? So, for example, 15% budget normally of all the projects, those are UN managed, for example. That's mandatory, but all of them, as a general advice, at least 15% should go to gender equality and women empowerment bits of the reconstruction process. Because of course, as we know, in times of conflicts, gender issues and gender roles are very much distorted. So if we do not bring back, let's say, equality and sort of restore some of the relations, of course there is a lasting change, there is a lasting negative consequence. And the other element probably to bring back is also that, of course, it has to be implemented by countries and member states. And that's where the political will probably would be important. And that's an example that we can see here in Rwanda. Rwanda, very early after the conflict, one involved women, which was one positive element. Profound Kwese Hamwe can attest on how the women activists, for example, or the government really made sure that we have women seated and involved in the discussions and negotiation. But also, on the other side, making sure that we have, for the lasting, quotas sometimes. The 30% can really help making sure that those are things that stay. And that has really made sure that the recommendations and the discussions really are taken and can lead to a lasting positive impact on gender
equality. Before
equality.
arriving there, let me take you back a little bit. How do women access the negotiation table? What does it take? Because we all know that UN Resolution 1325, it is a normative framework. So countries that are well advised decide, like Rwanda did, and other countries, to implement it. Or even before they start their policy and then they meet 1325 in the process. But it is not granted, because when you speak about suffering, we are equals. But when it comes to sharing power, because that's what it takes eventually, this is a question of power, and it is not granted. It is not, like they say in French, c'est la cour des grands. So you don't come there because you are nice, because you have suffered more the other. How does a woman access a negotiation table? How many women have accessed? Can you give us concrete examples? What did it take? What the parts of the framework, what the part of the charisma maybe of these women, or maybe the incentive or disincentive by partners or organizations. Please take us in the background before they reach there, before we come to quota. What happens?
I think it's a combination of different things. And again, we have women that really went through that, so they'll complement or contradict me. But just on my side, I think the first element, of course, is the convention is to be ratified by member states, of course. Then after that, really what shows the commitment to ensuring that those the convention is being implemented at national level is, for example, the establishment of national action plans. And as of now, I think, or around in 2018 at least, I think 77 countries had national action plans to ensure that the different recommendations in terms of including women in peace and security processes were going to be implemented. Because it's one thing to say, we agree, it's all good, Gender equality, it's fun, it's okay. But it's another thing to now bring it down to, at national level, what is going to be the path for us to achieve that. So national action plans is one of those elements that is important, and only 77 countries around the world, unless one or two others have established the national action plans since then. But then the other element is also that national action plans are interesting, but it's also important for them to be funded. And I think among the 77, only 18 are fully funded. So it's one thing to have an action plan, but if it doesn't have money with it, and making sure that, you know, those action plans are going to be able to be implemented, it's another issue. But then that's on the side of the political will and the investment that is needed. On the other side, it's also important to have women groups, women activists, women that are able to stand and say, this is what happened, this is what should be done, etc. We are approaching the 25th commemoration of the genocide against the Tutsi. And as you probably know, when at the end of the genocide, when some women survivors of rape stood and said, well, this is what happened to us, they started testifying. And of course, with the help of lawyers, etc., that's where rape was, for the first time, prosecuted as a war crime. So of course, it requires women to also stand up, and that's the whole objective of the discussion, is that women are not just there being victims, and then after the war, let us compensate, you know, the issues that you had. It's also women standing and saying, okay, this is what happened, but this is also, these are some of the solutions probably that can help. So I think it's really on both sides. It's political will, it's investment, is walking the talk, but it's also on the other side having women that are strong enough to just, you know.
All right, thank you very much. I think I'm going to put the panelists to a rest for the moment and engage the flow because there are many specialists here, and perhaps I'll use my prerogative of moderator to launch the question I started with Madame Novella, which is we speak a lot about it is easy to implement affirmative action once we have negotiated, once we have a roadmap, once we have something to hang on. But before that remain a challenge. I don't know where the statistics stands now, but we still need to have chief female negotiators, mediators. We have slightly more women on the table of negotiations, but not so much as chief negotiators. So this is still an issue, and I'm seeing Maman Rose, you know, accepting it is something. So please, we're going to take 3 questions or 3 comments, 3 contributions. Please state your name. State your name and ask your question or contribute. Since we don't have so much time, don't put 2 questions or 2 comments. Just 1 so that we give a chance to. I'm going to take 5 for the moment. Yes, please. Who start the game? Yes, please. Dr. Ajay Shaka.
The report covers a period of 19 years. So if you look at the figures, then very little progress have been achieved. So female negotiators are 4%, and the rest are men. And mediators are 2.4%. And then when it comes to witnesses, then the number increases a bit to reach 9%. So where is the problem? The problem is related to these patriarchal systems that translate into gender non-responsive policies and institutions. So we can't have women in the negotiation table if we don't have them empowered before the conflict. So we need to empower them before the conflict if we need to have them around the negotiation table. If you come back home, let's consider the case of Rwanda. Women are so many in these local committees, and they play a very important role because they represent 45% of Abunzi, local conflict mediators, and 48% of MAJ. So they play a very important role, and this is a result of the Gachacha. It participated a lot in empowering women, taking that courage, speaking in front of a very big community. That was a kind of unexpected outcome of the Gachacha process. So, but if you consider the figures, then we still have a long way to go.
And while you are preparing your question, what is very interesting, and when the ICRC approached me for moderation in this, I was particularly happy because it is a conversation that there is a gap between what women have lived in conflict, leave alone the aspect of suffering and losses. That's when we know it very well. But when you go back to the antiquity, you find how the so-called Amazons, that are partly myth, partly reality, but they have found even bones, remains of that should belong to Amazon. So women have been engaged in combat for very long, you know. When you look at the history of the discovery of Latin America, you have stories from Spain of those women that defended along what became the Amazonia. You have more close to our times. When you look at the effort of war made by women in the US, Canada, and Europe, particularly in the US and Canada, to support the effort of combatants in World War I, which became eventually their opportunity. So there is kind of amnesia when it comes to remember the role of women in other ways. I'm relating that to his comment of empowerment, because you become a chief negotiator because you have a strategic role in combat. Yes, you become a mediator because in mediating organizations you have a top-ranking role. So if you don't have that, accessing the table of negotiation might be a challenge. So I still wait for your comment and question to our distinguished panelists. Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, madam. I can see you well, but please, yes.
It's Annette from Rwanda Women's Network. I just wanted to find out, in relation to women being more vicious, I don't remember the word that you used, but...
No, not vicious. That one they share with men.
Yeah, but... But there's a judgment also around that in relation to when women also show their capacity to be able to be effective in combat, to contribute to fighting for freedom of their communities. Look at the case of Winnie Mandela and how she was judged and ostracized and put aside. So how do we, as women in the army and police, how do we ensure that this doesn't become our legacy? That we we are contributing towards our own freedoms, and we are tired of wars, and we want peace, and we don't want our bodies to be fields of war and used as weapons of war. I just wanted to find out in relation to that. I don't know if anyone has brought... you said one question.
Yes, yes, please. Thank you. Please.
So I think we are not locked. We are free. Everything is in our mind. Everything is in our mindset. We need ourselves to break the rules of the society. I like to say that we don't have those good numbers, those hoped number, because we are still in the continent, in this continent, we are still locked somehow. I have some figures here of the male and female representation in MINUSCA from 2014 to 2018. Let's say 2014, all the TCC, the two contributing countries from Africa, there were 5,000 and something male for 23 female. Almost 14 countries from Africa. 2015, we have 7,000 male for 85 female. I can continue to 2018, 7,000 male for 209 female. It's increasing, but the ratio is, the gap is huge. And why? Because of our mindset, our societal consideration, our African mindset. It's a taboo, but we have to face it. We still have that mindset that it's a main job. Yeah, I'm not able to do so. I'm not able to run. I'm not able to run the Bigugu. I'm not able to do whatever. So maybe one day I'll be deployed in Syria and I won't be able to be with my family. I left a 5-year-old boy, 5 months, sorry, for a whole year. My husband was there. It was perfect. After 1 year, my son was really, in good shape. I think he did a really good job. I think better than me. It's my opinion. I think we have to break that barrier, that mindset of I need to be a wife, a mom, stay close to my husband, and then blah, 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 blah. We need to break this. In the continent, we need to break that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. The chief feminist in Rwanda is listening to you carefully. She's very happy. Yes, you want to say something about that? Yes?
Yeah, just briefly. I think the one thing that probably people don't remember is that when women are needed, so in times of war, men have gone to war, right? So that's what happened in Europe, for example, during World War. Because men had gone to war, they needed workforce, So yeah, women, you can do it now. Come, please come and work. And then at the end of the war, men were back. They tried to push them back. Hopefully they said, no, it's not happening. Same in times of war. When they need additional soldiers, they will enroll women. And we know of accounts of women that go into Boko Haram, become soldiers, they are trained, and they, of course it's not necessarily positive things, but it's both men and women. And when it comes to at the end of the war and rehabilitation and disarming them, the different frameworks to get them back, les anciens combattants, right, ex-combatants, to get them back into normal life, they do not include or think about women. Many of those actually were made in a way that men with weapons would come, their weapons would be taken, and they would be given money, right? And then they could start their life back. But they never thought that some women also had weapons. So that provision not being there, many women would hand their weapons to a man that never fought, go, give that weapon, get the money, and eventually, if he wants or not, give, yeah. So he would have to maybe think about the woman who actually fought. So I think it's really a shift of mindset. It's not that women are less able or not, it's just that they are not valued. Even in bad things, let them be valued in both positive and negative things. So it means that it's really a shift of mindset. Both men and women can be as good or as bad. It's not that they are more ruthless or less. They can be maybe more determined. But it's really having and making sure that both are thought over, and also thinking that it's harder for them to go back to the community. Because one, they were fighters, they were killers. just as men. But then it's worse for a woman to kill. I mean, a woman gives life, right? So it shouldn't be okay for her to kill. I mean, that's the thinking. So it means that when a woman is seen as combatant, she is taken as worse than a man combatant. Exactly.
Yes.
So I think it's important to just keep the balance in all different areas and making sure that this discrimination is not perpetuated in different areas. Yeah.
So that's for the stigma. I'm going to take 2 quick questions and have 2 quick answers. Yes, please, Emma. Mrs. Emma.
Thank you very much. I'm Emma Marie Bugingo. I'm the Executive Director for Profama Twese Hamwe. I would just want to thank the panelists. I just have just a question, just a small question, following the comments from the 2 panelists especially. They are talking of the mindset that we should have that positive thinking, which I agree with. But the curiosity is when she was giving example of the deployment, for example, the families in Kigali, then you are deployed in the Western province, then you are still young, you have kids, 2 or 3, then you have, of course, to work, accomplish your work as you know, given. Then there is a role back home. I believe the husband can do something, but yet there is a role of a mother, especially to the siblings. So how is it, what is your experience? Be yourself or even the other colleagues when it comes to, you know, your role as a woman at home, because you can have that, you know, you have that passion, you feel you can do it and you are doing it, but how, when you compare your, you know, your willingness to do something, to work as a policeman or an army, how do you find this? How do you, you know, in terms of this, I'm asking this in a way of how maybe we motivate, how do we sensitize the young girls to join so that we can, you know, bridge the gap of the percentage you have been talking about. What is your experience on that one? And yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. This is a good question, and I may say it's a common question that people, whenever you meet someone, you're chatting, personally ask you this question. Being in security force, it doesn't mean that you will not be a mother. It doesn't mean that you cannot fulfill your duties and responsibilities. Basing on the presentation I mentioned about the Women Convention in Rwanda National Police, it was like a lesson learned from the elders that were been making earlier. Females were facing a challenge, like they would deploy me in another region far from my home, and kids, you know, the whole family could suffer because the mother is not present. But our leadership considered and thought of this. That's why they decided to say, if your home is situated in this area, you should be deployed close to your home where you can work. If it's a night shift, if it's a day shift, whatever, because people work in hotels. People work, you know, as the air hostess. They can work at night, but during the day they will fulfill their duties. So the same applies to forces. Well, everybody lives near the home. You will work your full hours as respected, then you go back home and take your duties. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yes, madam. Yes.
Thank you very much. My name is Venancy. I'm coming from Rariga. Rariga is a Rwandan Association of Local Government Authority. I'm in charge of local governance and decentralization. I appreciate what the panelists have said. And the discussion has brought me to our Rwandan families at the village, women inside their families. And I'm seeing that the stereotype as a woman as a victim is still prevailing in our families where women are still victims of gender-based violence of different types. And so I would like to ask both women from army and another from the police, as you are contributing to peace promotion worldwide, how do you contribute to peace promotion in Rwandan families, especially at the grassroots level, so that our the female are not continue to be victims as it is? Thank you very much.
I just want to warn you that this is a conversation ICRC will take for another time. But
Yes.
1 second, each of you, if you have that. It's the theme for the other day. I'm speaking about, yes, please, yes.
Thank you so
quickly.
much. I think before Rwanda National Police goes for peace international-wise, we bring peace locally through the community policing committees. I think these are best at the village level. We have the policing committees. We have the strategy of neighborhood watch, giving information. So if you are my neighbor, my eye is watching what's wrong. If this family is having like conflict day by day, the neighbor has to report this. And Rwanda National Police always have these campaigns about preventing crime. So that's why we have this, the CPCs, community policing committees. There is this toll-free. Anytime something happens, someone will just call freely. And according to these local committees, so the person will intervene easily. The police stations are located at almost at the level, village level. So this is being prevented through campaigns, sensitization, sensitizing about prevention of drugs. This is part of the what can bring conflicts in the families. So through campaigns, sensitization about preventing the crimes, police is doing it on the local level. Thank you.
I think we do the same job as the police. I think they are the well placed to do such kind of job, but almost all the time when they do the campaign, the training and such thing, we are together. We are close to their program. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much. I know we still have a lot to have in this conversation. I know also that you came straight from work, and we started slightly late. I'm going to bring our panelists to a close now, allowing you to go and navigate around all those roles we've been speaking about here. You have been in your profession whole day, but time it is. It was a pleasure to have you here. It was a pleasure to have such a distinguished panelist. I'm going to request a round of applause for my very able panelists. Yes, and to have such a big audience, very interested, although you didn't speak a lot, but I could see the eyes with a lot of questions. We can continue at the cocktail for those who are staying, but I want also to thank very much ICRC and UN Women, our host, for organizing that and keeping the debate alive in Kigali. Thank you very much, and see you next time.